What's up? What's up? We're going to get started here shortly. Proverbs chapter 10, Bible study. So bear with me for a few more minutes, waiting on getting the YouTube up and all that other stuff. I'm trying to dual stream. So just bear with me for a few more minutes and we will be getting started with Proverbs chapter 10, Bible study. We've already done chapters 1 through 9. So happy to see you guys coming back for Proverbs chapter 10. Really excited about this one because the Proverbs start to take a little shift right now at Proverbs chapter 10. So it's going to be pretty interesting. And I'm going to go ahead and get started actually. So people will jump on as they jump on. I'm not going to continue to wait, I guess. So sorry, y'all. Got hair in my mouth or something. All right, sorry about that. So I want to say welcome back to those of you who have been watching up until this point. We've gone through the first 9 books of the book of Proverbs, or the first 9 chapters of the book of Proverbs. So now we're on chapter 10. And it's been good up until this point. The first 9 chapters, we talked a lot about wisdom. What is wisdom? How are we to treat wisdom? How are we to accept wisdom? And the first 9 chapters of Proverbs is like longer letters. Is like Solomon wrote them in a letter form, like he was writing a letter to his son. And they could have been actual letters that he was writing to his son, that got binded up and put into the Bible. But at chapter 10, we take a shift. So from chapter 10 until chapter 22, around mid chapter 22, like I think it's verse 16, that's where we take another shift, and then we start going into a little bit longer pieces of Proverbs. So chapter 10 through 22, though, there's going to be like a bunch of one-liners. So that's, if you think about Proverbs chapter 10 and on, the Proverbs go into this more of a one-liner type of setup, and we're going to get a lot of like short, punchy, wisdom-packed Proverbs. And the great thing about chapter 10 is that even if we don't remember the entire chapter from chapter 10 to chapter 22, we can actually take these smaller pieces and like start to remember them. So this is a great section of the Bible to get our memory verses from, because a lot of these are set up in a fashion similar to what memory verses are. They're very short and punchy and powerful and catchy. These are great ones these are the ones that you bind on your finger, right? We talked earlier in some of the earlier Proverbs where it talked about binding these commandments on your finger. These are the ones that you put on your t-shirts and you put on your hats and you hang them up on you all throughout your house so that you can remember not just the importance of wisdom and seeking to be wise, and we're talking about spiritual wisdom, right? But the importance of actually practicing it. So I think that the great thing about the book of this chapter, once we start getting into this chapter, is that these are very contrasting, like contrasting the difference between the righteous and the wicked, or the wise and the foolish. So a lot of these do have that comparison. So when we breaking them down, it's pretty good because we'll be able to kind of compare and contrast the demeanor and the actions of the different types, I guess, and it helps us to be able to identify, okay, am I acting like this or am I acting like that? We can really use these proverbs to kind of do a heart check. Sometimes we need to do a heart check. We need to do a posture check. We need to make sure that, hey, I know that I am I know that I am saved and I've accepted Christ, but am I living a life that is actually yielded to Christ? And these proverbs will get you in that mindset to be able to do that. So we're gonna go ahead and get down into it. So if you guys have your Bibles with you, if you're following along with your Bible, definitely get that thing out and scroll on down to Proverbs chapter 10. If you don't have your Bible, no big deal. I will be reading each of the verses out, so you can follow along without it. But this is not a substitute for reading the Bible. So I just want to point that out. Make sure that you are getting in there and reading them, because there's something about seeing the words and reading the words that just makes them stick a little bit different, right? And these are day-to-day type of wisdom sayings, so we can just keep them in our minds and use them as we continue to live out our life, right? So let's go ahead and get started. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 1 starts off with a punch, right? It says, a wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son makes a sorrow to his mother. A wise son makes a glad father. Now, we talked about wise the other day, and one of the things that we know is that a person who is wise is a person who is skillfully living, right? This is a person that's not just intelligent, but they know how to apply the things that they've learned, right? They know how to apply what they know to live a more righteous life. And that's the importance, right? With all of the wisdom that we get, we are to get understanding, which means that we are to have that knowledge on how to apply this. So it says that a wise son, a son that is taking heed to commandments, that it says yesterday we learned that a wise person will love you for correcting them, right? The son that doesn't mind being corrected and that lives in the way of righteousness makes a glad father. Now, the word glad, that's joy, delight. The father will delight in them, right? The same way we want God to delight in us, right? And so I really like this, because I think like a wise son makes a glad father. When I think about God as the father, I think of this as, if I'm a wise son, then I make a glad father. I make God glad um of how I'm living my life, right? And the only way that I can do that is by being yielded to God. And then it says, but a foolish son makes a sorrow to his mother. And sorrow, that's deep grief. Like, we don't use the word sorrow that often. If someone told me that I was a sorrow to them, that would probably sting a little different than someone just told me that I was I don't know. I feel like that may even feel worse than disgrace. I don't know. Disgrace may be worse, but like, sorrow means that, like, you causing somebody distress and sadness and grief. Um, maybe even regret. To your mother. But the ideal about this is, like, we like to brag on our kids. We like to brag on ourselves. We like to brag on our accomplishments. We like when our parents brag on us, right? So the wise son gives the wise person gives their father, their mother, something to be joyful of, right? As followers, we give God something to be proud of when we live in a wise manner. When we live in a foolish manner, we create sorrow. That's what this opening verse is saying. And we go back to the previous Proverbs, Proverbs 1, 8, and 9, and Proverbs chapter 3, verse 11 and 12. These are both telling us that to be wise, we have to heed instruction, right? And then we have to accept correction. Like, don't get mad when we get corrected. Understand that correction is for my betterment, and let me use that to progress further, right? And it says that wisdom brings honor and long life. So what parent wouldn't be happy about that for their child? But when I look at this verse, I like to look at it from the relationship between, you know, God the Father and me as the son. And it's like, okay, I need to be I need to intentionally try to live my life as the wise son that brings joy and not the one that brings sorrow. Verse 2 says, treasures gained by wickedness do not profit, but righteousness delivers from death. uh Treasures, these are the things that we hold valuable, right? They're not just the things we hold value, they're the things that we store up. We're told not to store up treasures on this earth for ourselves. But what this is saying is that, even more so when it comes from wicked dealings, from evil, dishonest, unjust dealings, that it doesn't bring true profit. Now, could it bring you monetary gains in this world? Yes, it can. You can make treasure, you can get treasures that are gained from wickedness, and it will bring you all this wealth in this world. And you may feel that you're living this high and mighty life. You may even see people that are living like this and think like, man, if the person who's living evil can live so good, then what makes it bad for for us as followers? But what this ideal of profit is more than just earthly wealth. Like, we're talking about a spiritual wealth, right? We're not saving up treasures for ourselves on this earth. We worried about our salvation and the life after this, right? Everlasting life. And it says, but the righteous delivers from death. That's what that means. Righteousness delivers us from death, because we get to live in the house of the Lord forever, as Proverbs 23 puts it. So um the other thing about this is that treasures gained from wickedness often falls into the hands of others, right? Your wickedness can carry you for some time, but a lot of times that wealth still ends up in the hands of others. It may not be in one generation or two generations, but it's, oftentimes when you look through history, like, treasures that are gained by wickedness often does not endure. It normally does not endure for generations. Um, Unless you're talking about generations of wickedness, but even that normally topples at some point. Evil brings destruction anyway, destruction for those who are doing the evil and destruction for those around them. um and we learned that in Proverbs chapter 1 verse 19, actually. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna roll through these a little bit faster because there's so many of them in chapter 10, although I don't have to follow this necessarily chapter by chapter, because these sayings just kind of roll. They're not in really any necessary order, if you will. But I wanted to stick to doing a chapter a day, so I determined to stick to doing a chapter a day. So we're gonna get through chapter 10. So it says, verse 3: the Lord does not let the righteous go hungry, but thwarts the craving of the wicked. Right. And again, this is the righteous. We talked about the righteous, right? That's people who are living in alignment with God's will, right? We become more and more righteous the more that we get our lives in alignment with God's will. And there's a lot to unpack in that ideal, because a lot of times when we think of the fact, we think about God providing all for all of our needs or all of our desires. When we think about the desires that we want God to provide for, if my desires are not in alignment with his desires, it's not a guarantee that he's going to provide for those desires. But any desires that I have that are in alignment with God's will, he will satisfy them. How do I know that my desires are in alignment for God's will? By getting into the Bible and understand and trying to better understand what God's will is. God's will, Matthew 28:19, the last thing that Jesus said to his disciples was for them to go out and make disciples, spread the word, right? And so if nowhere else, we can start right there. And the more that we start to do that, the more that we will gain information and insight, right? Because then we're blessed to be a blessing. So keep that in mind. But the Lord does not let the righteous go hungry. And that's a spiritual hungry, right? We're not talking about a physical hungry. We're talking about a physical hunger that the Lord will fill for us. Verse 4: a slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. A slack hand. This is the hand of the sluggard. This is the idle hand, the person that is just kind of living life to live life, going along to get along, and the person who lacks intention. So this verse, right? A slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. This is not saying that everybody that lives in poverty has a slack hand. I know some people that live in poverty that work more than people who do not. What this is saying is that the hand of the slack will definitely land them in poverty, right? The person who does not have any intention will definitely end up in poverty. That's what this is saying. So it's not saying that anyone that is in poverty is lazy or has a slack hand or neglects. However, again, I'm trying to be careful how I say this, because again, my goal is not to offend anyone, right? My goal is not to um say anything that causes any kind of strife with anyone, because I'm not looking to argue with anyone. But lazy behavior equals to lazy outcomes, right? We sow what we reap. So what that means is that if I don't put any intention into my life, and this is in the same thing, like people would like to try to say that there's contradictions, right? I have to put intention into my life. That doesn't mean that I have to be the person that's worried about tomorrow, because it tells us take no thought for tomorrow. But I have to be intentional with the decisions I make still, because if I'm a lazy person, I won't do the things that God tells me to do. But if I'm diligent, then it's gonna make me rich. When I am diligently out here doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, it will make me rich. And that is in more ways than just wealth. That is in more ways than just monetary value. Like I talked about yesterday, when you're doing God's business, like it's crazy how doors will start to open, like stuff will start to make itself available to you and come into your life that you didn't even know was there. Like opportunity flows when we get in alignment with God's will, not just for our life, but God's will for his kingdom in general, right? We like to think about, oh, what's God's will for my life? And that's cool, because you want to know where you fit in. But overall, what is God's will for his kingdom, right? His will for his kingdom is to fill it up with as many followers as possible. That's what I've grown to learn. And if that's the case, then that means that one of my roles in the kingdom is to make sure that I am spreading the word so that more people come to figure out what is God all about, right? The more people that come and crack the Bible open and start to grow that connection with God, the more that I feel that I am doing one of the roles that God has for me in his kingdom, right? I think God can have multiple roles for us. And most of us only scratch the surface, in this long or short life that we live. Most of us only scratch the surface of the potential that God actually put in our lives. Verse 5: He who gathers in summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who brings shame. Again, the he who who gathers in the summer, right? We go back to the ideal of when he told us to talk to the ants, right? The ants is just doing what they're supposed to do. During all summer long, the ant is out collecting food, saving up food for the winter, so that in the winter time they have enough food to sustain the colony, right? And um prudent, we talked about that yesterday too. That's wise, that's insightful. So this is going back to that wise son, the wise son that the father is going to delight in. The father delights in the wise son because he went out and gathered in the summer to make sure that they were good for the winter. You get what I'm saying? But the one who sleeps in the harvest is a son who brings shame. Like, this is the person who's not willing to go out and do anything to provide, right? Provide for themselves, let alone provide for the collective good of everyone. So this is the person who sleeps in the harvest. That goes back to the slack hand, right? That's the slack hand. That's not the diligent hand. The diligent hand was the one who went out and harvested during the summer and was able to put something away. Um, and again, we live that life a lot now. We talked about that in the earlier Proverbs as well. Like the person who does not take wisdom when they're young often regret it when they're older. This is very similar to that as well. Verse 6: Blessings are on the head of the righteous, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Blessings are on the head of the righteous, right? Divine favor. We said we wanted to have that favor of God. We want to have that abundance of God. So blessings are on the head of the righteous. Blessings are on you when you're in alignment with God. You can't help but have God's favor when you're in alignment with God's will, because everything that God does for us is to progress his movement forward. So we have God's favor. Like you walk into rooms and stuff just get handed to you. People's hearts just change all of a sudden. That's when we got that favor of God. Those are the blessings, right? On the head, on our head. And even the head, like that's leadership. That's the top. That's like it's inheritance. I don't know. Like we are, blessings are on our head, blessings are on our family, blessings are on the endeavors that we touch when we are righteous, when we're seeking this is as of the righteous. So I don't want to make the insertion. I don't want to insert any of my own opinion. So when I say when we are seeking righteousness, I think I say that because I know that everyone is at different levels. Not all of us are in the same place, right? Not all of, like I talked about before. If we're on a marathon, we call this the marathon of righteousness, right? It's a never-ending marathon though. And or is an ultra. I don't know what you call a never-ending run, but this is a never-ending run of righteousness that we're all on, but we all started at different times. We all on different laps. We've all made different distances, but we're all running the same race, right? And some of us are farther than others. So when I say that we are seeking righteousness, some of us are already living a life that is, you know, aimed at being aligned with God. Some of us are not yet. Some of us were, and then we fell, and then we got sidetracked. We got pulled astray, right? It says that temptation and sin is sitting by the side, waiting to pull us astray, to pull us into their house. But we need to be listening for wisdom so that wisdom can keep us on the path of righteousness, so they can keep us on the path that God has for us, right? So there are times in our life when we get off the path, right? That does happen. We see that throughout the Bible. David got off the path. Some stuff happened now. He had to fight to get back on there. Solomon got on off the path. There's a lot of times where that happens. But we're always seeking righteousness until the day that we leave here. Because until the day that we leave here, we have an opportunity to either choose righteousness or to fall off of righteousness. So, we've never made it to that destination. This is an ongoing thing, right? But the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. You know, we're consistently trying to be righteous, but we always have that opportunity to fall back off into wickedness. And what we don't want to do is be the wicked that is concealing violence, right? Covers up everything that he talks about in here has been like when we realize that it's something that deals with wickedness or temptation or sin. There's always a cover up attached to it, right? The sin happens, and then there's a cover up, and it leads to destruction, right? Do we not see that in the news and in politics currently? There's always something that happens. There's a concealment that happens, and then there's destruction, whether that be destruction to reputation, destruction to business, destruction to life, injustice that happens towards someone. So we don't want to walk into wickedness, because it leads to shame, and then it leads to destruction, right? We want to be in God's favor, where um God's favor is when stuff happens in people's lives and it's like a blip on the radar. It doesn't even phase anybody. It's like, yep, but blip in the radar. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Like that, again, you see that where person could have been ended, but they weren't because they had the favor of God on them. And remember, the favor of God can be on us, and the favor of God can fall off of us too. Just take a look at Saul. But so, verse 7, the memory of the righteous is a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot. When we're living righteous in alignment with God, the legacy we leave behind will be a blessing to others. Right? You can think of people like MLK, he overall has a name that has been a blessing to others. It still carries on a message. And not that we're living our life for the world. That's not the case. But if we're living righteous, our name should have a good reputation. It should have a good aroma to it when it's spoken in amongst the people. But that's not always it's not always that it makes people happy, but does it create a blessing? Because that's the key. Does it create a blessing? Sometimes the blessing is not well received, but it says the memory of the righteous is a blessing. The name of the wicked, though, that's the name. The name of the wicked. Now, the wicked's reputation will rot. When you do wrong, normally you're remembered in the wrong light. We live in a weird world right now where you got some people who done did some wrong. They get remembered in this positive light somehow, but even that is a matter of perspective, right? And again, that's of the world. Like, I don't want my name to rot in the eternal sense. I want my name to be a blessing in the eternal sense. Okay. Verse number 8: the wise of heart will receive commandments, but a babbling fool will continue to ruin. The wise heart will receive commandments. This is going back to yesterday when we talked about the wise will love you for correcting them. The wise will love you for pointing out when they're headed in the wrong direction, because I'd rather you point out that I'm headed in the wrong direction than allow me to continue down my wrong path so that I can end up, 2 days out of my way because no one told me that I was headed in the wrong direction. But it says the wise will receive those commandments, but a babbling fool will come to ruin. When it's talking about a babbling fool, when you think about somebody being babbling, that's the person who's just talking. You ever come across somebody who just talks to talk? They just always running their mouth, not really talking about nothing. Again, we talked about this yesterday when we talked about the foolish, but that's what it's talking about when they say a babbling fool. And then we'll hear this again in a later proverb further down, where the ideal of someone being a gossiper, and that goes back to the things that God doesn't like. Gossiper normally is the person that's sowing discord amongst brethren, and the person that's sowing discord is also the babbling fool. The babbling fool is the person who's saying stuff that they don't supposed to say. You always the one who gotta say something out of the way in the presence of people that you shouldn't have said it in. That's a babbling fool. You take no regard for the things you're saying. You don't care that you just said something that's going to make this person go back and want to retaliate against someone else because it was something that you shouldn't have spoke on, right? Sometimes that's a babbling fool. But the wise person is going to be teachable. Like, ask yourself this: am I a teachable person? Am I truly a teachable person? A lot of times we think that we are teachable people, but teachable people follow instruction and take reproof, as they use in an earlier proverb. Verse 10: whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his way crooked will be found out. He who walks in, again, when you walk in integrity, you can walk with your head held high. You don't have to be ashamed of the things that you have going on. But when you walk in the ways that are crooked, you'll be found out. When you're doing dirt, normally the dirt comes to light, right? We know they say what's done in the dark will come to light. So this go back again. These are kind of building on each other. These are like little sayings, but these sayings are almost like that's kind of chapter 4 all in one, right? When we walk in integrity, we walk in security, but when we walk in the crooked ways, we'll get found out. Like when you're trying to do dirt behind closed doors, a lot of times you get found out, and when you get found out, now you got to run from the shame. But what it's saying is when we live our life in integrity, we don't have to do that. We don't have to have shame, even if we have a past that we come from. The fact that we know that we are a new creation through Christ, and now I am walking in integrity. I can walk with my head held high because He's redeemed me. He's already paid for those sins that I've already committed, and I'm a new creature. I have a new task. I've been reassigned. You get what I'm saying? Repurposed. That's what we are. When we come to Christ, we get repurposed. And when you get repurposed, now you're not that old beat up desk anymore. You're the new desk, right? You're painted. You got new knobs on you, and somebody's ready to put you in their house. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 10. Whoever winks the eye causes trouble, but a babbling fool will come to ruin. There we go again. The babbling fool still coming to ruin. Whoever winks the eye. This is like, again, when we heard about winking of the eye in, I think it was chapter 8. It was a person who was secretive, who was being deceptive and had manipulating behavior, right? This is the person who it said had the wicked thoughts. They got wicked thoughts and they're always up to something, always scheming. Whoever has wicked eyes causes trouble. That is true, right? The person who has those wicked eyes causes trouble. But the babbling fool comes to ruin, right? The person with the wicked eyes caused the trouble, but the babbling fool is the one who comes to ruin. Ever watch a movie where there's two bad guys, and you got the one bad guy who he came up with the master plan to go and rob the bank, let's say, but then he had to partner up with the babbling fool that can't help himself but go tell everybody about their master plan to rob the bank. So the babbling fool is the one that normally comes to ruin, and the person with the winking eye, they cause the trouble, right? They get in trouble too, but the babbling fool is the one who comes to ruin. Like nobody likes the babbling fool. The cops love him, may love him because he gave himself away, but nobody else likes him. So that's again, don't know if that's a good analogy or a good comparison, but that's kind of how I think of this when I see this. Like the babbling fool is the one who just can't help himself. Excessive talking, self-destructive, right? Proverbs chapter 10, verse 11. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. There we go again. Same comparison. The mouth of the wicked conceals violence. They are hiding something destructive. But then the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. Are your words a fountain of life? Do you speak life over the people in your life? You know, the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. The mouth of the wicked, when we and this is not a are you a wicked person? Are you a righteous person? This is am I acting righteously now, and then moments later I'm acting wicked because this person I don't like. So when this person come around, oh, I unleash and I let the violence come out, right? It conceals violence. Like concealing violence. Do you ever have somebody that you just don't like? You don't like them so much that you probably would put hands on them if they ever cross that line with you, but you talk reckless to them. You concealing violence, right? Like in your heart, you don't like them. So the words that come out of your mouth seeks to tear them down, because if you could without getting in trouble, you might put your hands on them. That's kind of an ideal of this, right? The mouth of the wicked conceals violence. This yes, there are people who are just wicked, and that is how they are with everybody. Everything out of their mouth is destructive at everybody, right? But as followers, we're supposed to be a fountain of life, right? The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. That by itself should be a mission statement for a lot of us this year in 2025. How do I make sure that my mouth of righteousness is being a fountain of life to others, to the stranger, as well as the person that I know and love, as well as the person that I don't like, right? A fountain of life. Am I speaking blessings over people? Am I speaking good fortune over people? Am I making sure that I am not cursing people? And I'm not talking about cussing, I'm talking about cursing. You get what I'm saying? These words that come out of our mouth, they're powerful. They're powerful. You be careful what you say over people and for people and to people, right? But we are supposed to uh, we are supposed to be a fountain of life. That's something to think about. Are you a fountain of life? Do your words encourage others? Do you build people up? Are you a blessing to be around? I need to ask myself that sometimes, right? I need to ask myself that a lot of times. Are the words that I'm about to say going to be a blessing, or is it not going to be a blessing? Because sometimes I just need to shut up. Sometimes I just need to shut up. Sometimes I just need to sit back and keep my words to myself, because I need to pray that God helps me to process this information a little bit more, because what I'm about to say not going to come out right, and it's going to cause some destruction, some hurt feelings, right? But when I am a fountain of life, even when it's something that's negative, I can speak blessings into it. I can speak understanding into it. I can speak wisdom into it, right? Every negative situation comes with an opportunity to gain some type of wisdom and insight. Verse 12. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. You know, it says that love covers a multitude of sin, right? Love covers a multitude of offenses. That is so true. Hatred stirs up strife. Go just like what I just said, right? When you don't like somebody, when your heart's not right towards that person, it starts to come out of your actions and it starts to come out of your mouth. You start to speak that out. It stirs up strife. Like when you don't like somebody, you try to get other people not to like them, right? Am I the only one that may have felt like that before? Like, if I don't like you, my friend can't like you either. I need to make sure that my friend don't like you. And you know what that does? We was talking about this earlier in our other in our purple book study, about how if something, it says hatred stirs up strife. If I don't like somebody, that is a gateway to me doing all types of stuff, right? It is a gateway to me having hold on, let me pull it up actually. In Proverbs chapter 6, Proverbs 6, Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16 is starts the 6 things that God hate, right? And the 7 that he finds an abomination. And this is from the New King James Version right now. It says, a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift and run into evil, false witness who speak lies, and one who sows discord among brethren, right? So when it says that that hatred stirs up strife, when I hate somebody, I am probably quicker to bear false witness against them. When you want to see them get in trouble, you might say that they did something, or over exaggerate something that they actually did do to make sure that it really really sticks, right? That's what hatred would do, right? Hatred would have me and that's a lying tongue and bearing false witness. You can't bear false witness without having a lying tongue, right? A proud look. They called that hot, um, haughty eyes, I think it was. And but that's what that means. It means that you're prideful, arrogant, think you better than somebody. Again, when I hate somebody, when I have hatred in my heart for somebody, oftentimes I think I'm better than them, right? Um, a heart that devises wicked plans. When you don't like somebody, it's easy to come up with some stuff to against them, right? And you may say, "Oh, I've never done that." Um, I know people who have eaten people's food out of the refrigerator, at work. I know people who have hidden stuff from people because they didn't like them. I literally know people who have bore false witness against people. In the military, we've had that happen before. And so devising wicked plans, it just means that you schemed on somebody. You schemed against them, right? And then feet that are swift and run into evil. And again, we'll read that and we'll think, oh, well, evil meaning like, killing people. No, 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 no. Feet that are evil to run to gossip, right? You hate somebody, so as soon as you get some tea about them, you're gonna run off so you can go and hear or tell the tea. You hear some negative news about them, you're gonna run off to go and spread that because you already don't like them. That's the same thing. It's not necessarily that we run into that when they say run into evil, that we're running towards death and beating people up and stealing and all that. Sometimes it's literally just gossiping. It's literally just going out and trying to ruin somebody's reputation through gossip, right? So that was Proverbs chapter 10, verse 12, right? Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. When we seek to give out love, when we seek to do what this previous verse said, which is let our mouth be a fountain of life, when we seek to do that, we cover all offenses. The crazy thing about this, when it says it covers all offenses, what it really saying is that you won't even get offended by certain things. There's some stuff that I don't get offended by from certain people, right? There's stuff that a stranger could do to me that just won't offend me because I don't even know you. Like, it might throw me off, it may even like catch me off guard, or kind of set, I might feel set back a little bit. But when I actually think about it and put it against what's true, don't really cause no offense, right? Brother, I still love you. Sister, I still love you, even though you bumped into me. We got rear-ended a couple of months back. And the first instant was to hop out the car and start firing off. I was mad. Something just was like, I saw the young lady. I was like, she probably ain't got insurance. Ask her, you got insurance? She ain't got insurance, right? I was like, you know what? Go on, go. Go on, go. I can have some love for you because I go call the police on you, and now you got a ticket, your license suspended, maybe you could lose your job, all these different things, right? All because of my offense. I didn't have to have that offense though. And because I show her love, it really wasn't all that bad. You know what I mean? I don't even know the young lady. I probably never see her again in my life, but love covers a multitude of offenses. Doesn't necessarily just mean that love is gonna cover the offense, like love is gonna make the offense okay, right? Honestly, when you get offended by somebody, love don't always make the offense go away, right? Love may make you accept that person a little bit more, but it don't necessarily make the offense go away. This is saying that when we show love, when we make love our love language, when we speak out of love, when we allow love to flow out of our heart, we naturally start to not be offended by so much stuff. People are so offended right now because it's hatred, right? When you already got hatred in your heart, when you already mad about something and somebody do something to you, does it not cause strife in you? You could be mad about something that happened at your house before you left in the morning and get to work, and somebody say, hey, did you send that email yesterday? And you start snapping off on them about something that ain't even related to them, right? Because hatred stirs up strife. When I'm already in a bad mood, I spread a bad mood around. I come into the office with a bad mood. I walk into my place of, wherever I'm going with a bad mood, into my classroom with a bad mood. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. But when you come in with love, when you come in, when you're the student that the teacher loves, you can miss an assignment and the teacher will let you turn it in later than normal, right? You can misspell a word and the teacher won't knock it off the grade. But when you're that student that got nothing but hatred every time you come in, you stir up strife. Ain't no love coming back towards you. It's harder to get it, right? Now you got to get some real favor of God. So we're gonna move on because I don't want to get stuck, because I get stuck on y'all now, and this will be 3 hours long. So Proverbs chapter 10 verse 13 and 14 says, on the lips of him who has understanding wisdom is found, but a rod is for the back of him who lacks sense. The wise lay up knowledge, but the mouth of a fool brings ruin near. Again, we going back to ruin, 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 right? We keep on hearing this over and over again. Fool, ruin. We act foolish, we end up in ruin. Repeated over and over again. But I like the fact that it says the lips of him who has understanding, wisdom is found. Because wisdom and understanding go hand in hand. We already covered that, right? Wisdom and insight. With all the wisdom that you're getting, get understanding. With all this knowledge, get understanding. So when we act, when we are wise, living in a righteous manner, and are seeking understanding, we are able to speak with understanding. Wisdom is found in us, right? But the rod is for the back of him who lacks sense. The rod, right? I visited. I think I've been to like 14 different countries during my time in the military. And the craziest place that I probably went to that had me the scaredest to do anything was Singapore. In Singapore, you can get caned. And for those of you who don't know what caning is, you can get literally beat with a bamboo stick, right? And think of these long bamboo poles, and they whip people with it. And you can look it up on the internet if you got if you're not squeamish. But caning is a prominent form of punishment in Singapore, right? You can get sentenced to, I think, anywhere between 6 to 12 licks of the cane. And I think when you get, like, if you get 12 licks, you have to come in 2 sessions. So you get the first 6, and then you get the second 6 later after you've healed up. So they have police officers who, that's their whole job, is to cane people. They practice how to use this cane in such a fashion that every lick causes like lacerations, right? Um, Caning is so bad that after three licks, most people pass out, and they have a doctor there that will use smelling salts to wake you up so that you can get your other 3 licks, right? Um, so when this says, "But a rod is for the back of him who lacks sense," if you live in a place where you know that's the punishment, you gotta lack some sense, right? Now we can go back to where it talked about the person who is stealing because they need to feed themselves. That, we don't necessarily, we may not look at that as being wicked, but they still gotta pay what it say sevenfold. You know what I'm saying? There's still a payment for any sin, even if it's sin that we figured out a way to justify, right? But with this like a rod for the back, like that is a very brutal form of discipline. So I wanted to share that ideal of what that looked like, so that, because this doesn't seem like much, right? It's like rod to the back seems like a spanking, like what we're used to in America. Maybe you got paddled, you know what I mean? But a rod to the back, they didn't say to the back side, to the back. That sounds like Canaan to me. That sounds like 3 licks, passed out, got some smelling salts, woke you back up, and most people don't do this second time type of punishment. And then the wise lay up knowledge. That's what Solomon literally did in the book of Proverbs, was laid up knowledge. He wrote a whole book dedicated to just him spreading knowledge. Like I told y'all the other day, I think everybody in this world should write a book. Write a book of the things that you've learned. If nothing else, a book of things, and you can just title it that. Things that I learned. Things that I learned in my youth, things that I learned in my middle years, things that I learned in my old age. You can literally just call it simple thing, simple titles. But with this, the wise lays up knowledge, but the mouth of the fool brings ruin near, because the fool ain't laying up no knowledge. They ain't got no knowledge to give. They just talking. The fool is just blabbering, right? But the wise is laying up knowledge. Remember, I told y'all, wisdom is the true way to generational wealth. Leave your kids money, the money can disappear in no time, right? We've seen those TV shows that people win $1 million, they win $10 million, and then they're broke by the end of the year. You know, but if they had wisdom, wisdom will keep it there longer, and the more wisdom you could pass down between generations, the longer that it lasts. That's true, Caleb. It is. Thank you for getting on today. I hope I'm saying that correct. So let's go to 15. We're gonna try to get on through 15 through 21 real quick. But these next few, they're going to talk about wealth, wisdom, and the power of words again. So a rich man's wealth is his strong city. The poverty of the poor is their ruin. A rich man's wealth is his strong city. A city is a fortified place. Um, generally speaking, a city is a fortified place with protection. Cities nowadays don't have like walls around them that provide a level of protection, but we do have borders, right? Jurisdictions and all of that stuff. So if you looked at that as a invisible line of fortification or invisible line of protection, the city is a place. It's supposed to be a place of safety where you can store your wealth. You build your business inside the city because you are banking on the fact that the city is going to provide some type of security for your business, right? Police can go out and secure and what's the patrol around your business to provide a level of security. So their wealth is their strong city, right? Fortified city. Poverty, when it talks about the poverty of the poor is his ruin. Poverty is destruction, right? Hopelessness. And what this is really saying is that the rich man puts all his he puts all his he puts all of his, I guess, belief. I don't want to say belief. Riches don't guarantee us safety, right? Access to riches don't give us safety in itself. And although poverty can be, devastating, riches can too. Because once you got it, you spend all this time trying to figure out how to keep it. So our true security comes from God. Really in this saying, they're both in a sense wrong. The person who is rich, they put all their safety and security is their strong city. This is where they're getting their safety and security from. They feel secure in the fact that they have their riches. But then it says that the poverty for the poor is their ruin. The ruins is what's left over, is what you stay in. Is again, is hopelessness. Sometimes you get so far down that you feel like there's no way out. You get so deep into a depression. Like I mean, I have PTSD, right? There are times when I get deep into a slump and I have to remind myself of what's true. Now here's what the key to this verse is. The key to this verse is just that, remembering what's true, putting everything against the word of God, right? um my security does not come from my wealth. It does not come from my abilities. It comes from God. I don't have to live in the ruins of poverty, because I know that through God I am capable of all things. I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. The thing I have to do is make a decision to do something is moving me further in alignment with God. Because the more I get in alignment with God, the more I move away from those ruins. That I don't have to live in those ruins. Chapter 16. The wage of the righteous leads to life. The gain of uh, the gain of the wicked to sin. The wage of the righteous leads to life, right? When you do righteous deeds, you get paid in life. I'm not even going to really dig into that too much, right? We know what wages are. We all want wages, right? We want a hard days, or what is it? A full day's pay for a hard day's work, or whatever they say. Though we really want a full day's work for an easy day of work most times, but um the wages of the righteous lead to life. The gains of the wicked to sin. Like wicked gains. I always thought it was crazy how people could go and rob a bank and then be broke. a week later and have to go rob another bank. I watch a lot of documentaries, right? I watch a lot of crime shows too. And I always thought that was crazy because it was like bank robbers don't ever just rob one bank, get like $4 million, and then they done with it. Like they gotta rob a bank and then another bank and then another bank. Same thing with like when you with drug dealing. You know, when you drug dealing, you don't just stop at one. They keep going and you keep going and you keep going, and before you know it, you're so deep into it that you can't even get your way out. That's what this is kind of saying. Like uh those gains, they create a hunger in you. That's that throth that it talked about, that where God will make the sin, the wicked, he increases their hunger for things, so they're never satisfied. You're never going to be satisfied. But when you live in righteousness, you can be satisfied with way less, right? And again, it doesn't mean that you won't have nice things and you can't live nice if that is in alignment with what God has for you in his kingdom. You get what I'm saying? Whoever heeds instruction, this is 17, whoever heeds instruction is on the path of life, but he who rejects reproof leads others astray. Ah, this one, right? Whoever heeds instruction is on the path to life. Heed instruction, you're on the path to life. That makes sense, right? Whoever rejects reproof leads others astray. This one, that part right there. Remember, the word rejects, that's action. Like you have to choose to reject something, right? When you submit a claim for something, it will sit in the queue pending until someone either accepts or rejects it, right? They have to look at it, make a decision, and reject it. When I say, if I was to airdrop you a document, it will time out and not send it unless you accept it or reject it, right? So the person who rejects reproof leads other people astray. We talked about this before, earlier, when we talked about the wicked, right? We have these, you have people who are doing wicked deeds, they're devising wicked plans, and then what do? They lead others astray. They find those sometimes innocent, sometimes senseless, sometimes naive people who may be easily influenced, and they lead them astray. This is this happens a lot in the church, unfortunately. You know, we'll see people who reject reproof, like, you know, someone in the congregation may have even come to them and given them some reproof, and they reject it, and then you start to lead others astray. When we as followers live lives that are lukewarm, we sometimes can lead others astray, because what we're doing is we're putting on an image and saying, hey, look at, especially when people know that you're a follower, or a believer, right? And they can look at you as the beacon, or the model of what I need to try to get to. But if you're living in a way that is skewed from what God truly wants us to, how God truly wants us to live, and they think that that is okay, is that's how we start to lead people astray. If we can do it, even when we're trying to be to live a more righteous life, then the wicked is definitely doing it. That is why people could be a bad influence on others, right? You take this person who never got in trouble and they click up with this person who only looks for trouble, and you know, one or two things either happen. Either that person pulls the other person out of getting in trouble, or the other person gets pulled into it, you know. But I don't want to be the person that's leading other people's astray. I don't want to be the reason why someone else loses their salvation, because I am willfully neglecting reproof. I'm willingly turning away correction. You know, we found out that, you know, accepting wisdom is actually a sign of being wise. Like the wiser we become, the more we accept correction, because we understand that we don't know it all. I think that's the crazy thing about wisdom, and the crazy thing about knowledge is that true knowledge is understanding that you don't know it all. False knowledge is if you ever talk to somebody and they think that they already know everything about any given subject, run away from what they're saying. You know what I mean? True knowledge and true wisdom is understanding that I will never know everything there is to know. If somebody, we talk about planting again, right? Somebody come out here and they profess to know every single thing there is to know about growing a tomato plant. I probably don't want to hear half of what they're saying. But the person who come out and they say, "Hey, I don't know everything, but this is what I do know," I can start to listen to you, because what you first acknowledge is that, hey, there's more that I can learn. There's always more that we can learn. The one who conceals hatred has lying lips, and whoever utters slander is a fool. This is verse 18. The one who conceals hatred has lying lips. Remember, we just talked about this, right? If if you conceal hatred, if you have hatred in your heart for somebody, chances are you have lying lips. Here's how simple that could be, right? You know you don't like that person, but then when people say, if somebody asks you about it, you pretend that you do. You know what I mean? Just that alone, right? Because I'm concealing the hatred. I'm not letting everybody know that I hate that person. I hate them, but I be like, oh yeah, they okay, they cool, right? But when you show love, you don't have to conceal it. You don't have to conceal anything, right? Now, the problems the problem could be the other side. You know, you hate them in your openly saying it, but that can also be the fool, right? Whoever others slander is lies and falsities, right? Whoever spreads rumors and accusations and scuttlebutt, as we called it in the Marine Corps, is a fool. They say they're reckless, right? This is the person that's intentionally sowing discord. They're morally corrupt because they want to assist people in ripping them apart and tearing down relationships. Chapter verse 19. When words are many, transgressions are not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is prudent. Run off at the mouth, you're gonna offend somebody. That's what this is saying. When words are many, when you talking too much, you bound to transgress. You bound to cross a line. It's not gonna be lacking. Again, when you know people who got all this stuff to say but never practicing wisdom, they often offend people. You may work with somebody that talk too much and offend you all the time, right? Transgressions will happen when you don't learn how to restrain your lips. That's what the next part says. But whoever restrains their lip is prudent. That's the wise person. The person who realizes that not everything needs my opinion. Not everything needs me to say exactly how I feel. I don't have to lie. I just don't have to give my opinion. It's very easy. I don't have to lie to you. I don't have to tell you that I love whatever is going on or I like it. I don't have an opinion that I want to give right now. Not that I don't have an opinion, right? I'm not lying. I don't have an opinion that I want to give right now. And you can leave it at that. That's very few words, right? Rather than going down this long laundry list of why I don't like Susan and why Susan get on my nerves, and I know she the one that stole my whiteout, and I know that she the one that told Bob that I left early on Tuesday. Instead of me going down that long laundry list of talking and then causing a transgression because now Sally done went back and told Susie what I said about her. You get what I'm saying? I can just restrain my lips. I really don't have anything that I want to talk about her right now. And can we just change the subject? Or can we just not talk at all? Person coming to me with gossip, wanting to get gossip or wanting to give gossip. Most times I don't even want to talk. You know what, man? I don't even feel like talking right now. You know, no offense. Like, don't even tell me to gossip. That's the type of person that I'm trying to be. I don't want to keep no secrets. Don't come tell me the secret. I don't want to know your secret. Because here's the problem, right? Now your secret is living rent free in my mind. And I gotta be the one that's worried about keeping something that you shouldn't have told me. If it's a secret, keep it to yourself. Right? um that's off topic. They ain't that let's keep on going. Let's keep on going. But I don't need the gossip though. Like, don't you ain't people don't have to come to me with the gossip. I don't even want to know. I don't need the tea. I like coffee anyway. Don't even worry about it. Verse 20 says, the tongue of the righteous is choice silver. The heart of the wicked is of little worth. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver. It's valuable. The tongue of the righteous speaks life, right? It's the fountain of life. The fountain, imagine the fountain of life. How much would a gallon of water cost from the fountain of life? You know what I mean? You pay it all for the fount for the water from the fount for a gallon of the water from the fountain of life. It says that the tongue of the righteous is choice silver. This is the good silver. This is the stuff that is 100% pure, didn't have any impurities in it. Never been recycled or repurposed or any of this stuff. That's what choice silver is. And then the heart of the wicked is of little worth, though, has no value, right? The heart of the wicked is perishable, I guess you would say. Uh, it doesn't have any substance. It doesn't do any. It doesn't bring any value to anybody, to anyone's life. Matter of fact, the heart of the wicked takes away value from others' life. Right? The wicked takes away life from people, physical life sometimes even. I'm talking about. Like I told you guys how my feeling about theft. When you steal from somebody, to me, you're taking a portion of their life, right? Had to work for that. Verse 20, 21, the lips of the righteous feeds many, but fools die from lack of sense. So here we go again. So the tongue of the righteous is choice silver. Not only that, but the lips of the righteous also feeds many. Imagine how many people you could feed with some choice silver. You know what I'm saying? It feeds many. The lips of the righteous feeds many. It feeds their soul, right? When you're speaking life over people, you're feeding them. When you're sharing the gospel with people, you're feeding them, right? Jesus told us to feed his sheep, right? So the lips of the righteous feeds many. When we are acting out of the true righteousness of being aligned with Christ, we get to feed many people with just the words that come out of our mouth, just the power of the words that God allows to come out of our mouth. But the fool dies for lack of sense. The fool won't even hear the words to even allow it to penetrate in enough for them to get that increased life. And again, this could be physical death, but this is talking about spiritual death, right? They're gonna die a spiritual death because of a lack of sense, living reckless. Chapter 20, verse 22. The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Everybody's heard that one, right? The blessing, people love to say that one too. The blessing of the Lord make rich and adds no sorrow to it. That is true. That is very true. That is why you want to get some of that, right? It's all good. You know, you can make a person rich and add sorrow to them because now they got to stay rich, right? You give somebody a brand new house or a brand new car, they got to manage to do the upkeep on that. But what this is saying is when the blessings come from the Lord, it adds no sorrow. There is no upkeep. There is no gas to put in the car. There is no electricity bill to pay on that house that was given to you. When God gives it to you, it doesn't come with sorrow. Verse 23, doing wrong is like a joke to a fool, but wisdom is pleasure to a man of understanding. All 9 chapters that we've read so far talked about that, right? Doing wrong is like a joke to a fool. The fool doesn't take reproof. They laugh at reproof. You try to correct them, and they think that, oh, what you're saying is out of date, and ha ha ha, jokes on you. That's how the fool acts. But it says wisdom is a pleasure to a man of understanding. We learn again, the wise will love you for correcting them. Thank you for giving me correction and not allowing me to um, senselessly wander off into death. Thank you for correcting me. Foolish people like doing stupid stuff. You know what I mean? Again, I've been foolish before. I've done some stupid stuff. So when I say foolish people like doing stupid stuff and foolish people like doing wrong, I am saying it out of a place of experience. When I have been and sometimes still am a fool in certain phases of life, right? It's a constant battle. It's the ideal of we got to die to ourselves daily. We got to die to ourselves daily and take up the cross. Every day when I wake up, I got to decide to take up the cross of Christ and live my life in a righteous manner rather than living my life in a worldly manner. That's a daily battle, right? So that's what this like. Sometimes I'm the fool that think that things are a joke. It happens, right? But who I want to be, who I am aiming to be, is the man of understanding that finds pleasure in wisdom. I find pleasure in doing things nowadays that are safer, whereas when I was younger, I found pleasure in doing things that were a little bit risky. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to thread the needle just a little bit. You know, like I just want to be close enough to the fight but not in the fight. I want to be so close to the fight that I can hear the punches land. You know what I mean? But in my wisdom, as a man of understanding, I don't want to be there when somebody pop the trunk. You get what I'm saying? So I don't. So I ain't trying to be around that no more. So who I'm aiming to be is the man of wisdom, the man of understanding. Verse 24. What the wicked dreads will come upon him, but the desire of the righteous will be granted. Ooh, sorry about that. What the wicked dreads will come upon him. So I was thinking about this one earlier, right? Dreading something. Dreading is like that deep fear. It's like a paralyzing type of fear. It's that immobilizing fear, right? When you dread something, dreading dreading the test will have you skipping class, right? Dreading the work day will have you calling in sick. Dreading the doctor's appointment will have you cancel the doctor's appointment. When we dread something, it creates a sense of terror in us. And so it says, what the wicked dreads, what they fear, will come upon them. You know what? I realized something when I was thinking on this. What does the wicked fear? What do they dread? Oftentimes when we're acting in a wicked manner, the thing that we are the way that we're behaving with others is normally the thing that we dread the most, right? Uh, I use the ideal of a thief. Probably the worst thing that can happen to a thief is to have something stolen from them. Yeah, you know what I mean? The worst thing that could probably happen to a murderer is being murdered or having someone that is close to them murdered, right? It's probably the worst thing that can happen to them. So I think that when it says the thing that the wicked dreads will come upon them, normally is the thing that how you behave with others is normally how it comes back on you, right? Maybe even 7 times fold, like it said. But then it says the desires of the righteous will be granted. So even that, when you think about that, we got to break down the righteous first. So these are not just anybody's desires, the desire of the righteous. And what does it mean to be righteous? Let's go back to what we said earlier, which was righteousness is when we are in alignment with God's will, right? God's will, not just for our life, but for his kingdom. And so if I am righteous and in alignment with God, my desires will be granted. And the reason why my desires will be granted is because then my desires become in alignment with God's desire for me. So it's easy for it to be granted when what I want is already what God wants to give to me. Right? I hope that makes sense, right? Um verse 25. And we're kind of making some good time here, y'all. We're on verse 25 already. Only got a couple more to go. So verse 25 says, when the tempest passes, the wicked is no more, but the righteous is established forever. When the storm pass, when the whirlwind pass, right? This too shall pass. When judgment pass, when disaster is over, when trials are over, the wicked is no more, but the righteous is established forever. This made me think about Psalms 23 again. I want to dwell in the house of the Lord forever, right? I want to forever be in the presence of God. So when we are righteous, we get that opportunity. We are established forever. 26, like vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the sluggard to those who send him. Now, vinegar to the teeth. Vinegar erodes your enamel, right? The more vinegary substances that we intake, the more it will erode the enamel on our teeth, which is the white covering, that pearly part, the smoothness of on your teeth, right? And if you drink too much vinegar or acidy substances, you can erode your teeth so much to where it becomes painful. Like it almost act as like a cavity. It could be abrasive to your gums, right? So it says like vinegar to the teeth and like smoke to the eyes. I'm pretty sure if you ever been camping or maybe had a fall night where you sit out by the campfire, you know that when the smoke gets in your eye, it can irritate you to the point where your eyes get so worried that you can't see. Your eyes can get so dry that you can't see, but it's blinding, right? The smoke in the eyes is blinding. So it says like vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the sluggard to those who send him. The sluggard, the lazy. You ever tried to send somebody lazy to do something for you? You know what I'm saying? If you're a manager at work, if you got a lazy employee that you tasked to do something, a sluggard, somebody who is unreliable, who doesn't get the job done. That's what this is saying. Like we talked about the sluggard, right? In our relationship with God, we don't want to be the sluggard, the person that is too lazy to spread his word, too lazy to pray for that person that God put it on our heart to pray for. You know, you ever been out somewhere and you felt the you felt that you should go pray for somebody and you didn't because you felt too ashamed or you didn't want them to think you were weird or crazy or whatever it is. That could be a form of sluggard of being a sluggard and when it comes down to the kingdom of God, right? There's a job to be done. There's a task that we have to do. And when we don't go out and complete that task, we are being the lazy, unreliable, sluggard person, the sluggish person that is not helping to push forward the kingdom of God, not helping to spread his message. So we don't want to be that type of person because we don't want our behavior and our actions to be like vinegar in God's mouth, to be like smoke in God's eyes. And again, this is not humanizing God in the sense of, these things have an effect. This is saying like, if we know that it would be distasteful for us to send someone that is a sluggard out on our behalf, why do we behave as the sluggard on God's behalf? You wouldn't send a lazy person out to build a house for you, not intentionally. So why are we trying to build a house of the Lord as sluggard people, as lazy people, as unreliable people? So this is something that we don't want to be. Again, I love this in Proverbs because it's telling us who to be and it's telling us who not to be, right? To be or not to be, that is the question. It is nobler in the mind. All right, no more Shakespeare. Verse 27. The fear of the Lord prolongs life, but the years of the wicked will be short. We've heard this one before. The fear of the Lord prolongs life. It comes with blessings. Um, it prolongs life in the sense of the spiritual too, right? We're gonna live forever in the house of the Lord, right? There's a life to be had. There's a form of existence past this life that God has already told us about, and we get to experience that for eternity when we are the righteous. So Fear of the Lord prolongs life. Verse 28. The hope of the righteous brings joy, but the expectation of the wicked will perish. The hope of the righteous brings joy. Again, fountain of life. The words coming out of your mouth. We're going to bring some joy, right? The hope is expectation. That is the same word that they use for the second half of this is really the same word, expectation. You know, is when I'm hopeful for something, I can wait with confidence, right? I'm not even nervous about it. I'm hopeful that what I am expecting is gonna come forth. You know, I can trust in something good. I can trust in God. That's when I have my hope. It's not a wish. This is something that is based on God's faithfulness. And then so it's the hope of the righteous, because again, when I'm righteous, I can have hope because I know that the things that I want are in alignment with what God already wants for me. And it brings joy, it brings happiness, gladness, you know. But the wicked says that it will perish, right? It'll be lost. Like their expectation will be lost, destroyed. It will come to ruins. Uh, Again, normally when you're doing wicked deeds, especially when you're doing them in a sense of trying to get ahead in something, it doesn't always work, right? Eventually, it comes to light, and your plans get foiled. So, and I'm gonna go back up, right? This is also foreshadowing, right? The hope of the righteous brings joy. The hope of the righteous brings joy. You put this in an end time perspective. The expectation of the wicked will perish. We already know who wins in the end, right? So everything of the wicked is gonna perish. It's not gonna stand. It's gonna be gone. It's gonna get washed away. Only a matter of time. Verse 29 says, "The way of the Lord is a stronghold to the blameless, but destruction to evildoers." The way of the Lord, that's what we're trying to get on, right? It's a stronghold for the blameless, the righteous, right? And this is not blameless as in like a person who's never done anything always, which is great. Now, if you are that person, if you can actually have the title of blameless, right? You're innocent, you're upright, and have walked with integrity your entire life, right? Then and you are righteous and yielded to God, the way of the Lord is your stronghold. That is 100% true. Also, when Christ died for us on the cross, it says that um he wiped our slate clean, right? So that made us then blameless again. You know, he expunged our he expunged us. And he pardoned us. You get what I'm saying? So the way of the Lord is a stronghold for those who are in the Lord. When we are living a righteous life, God is our protection. The Lord will be our protection. That's what a stronghold is. A stronghold is a fortified place, right? So we talked about the city being a fortified place with boundaries and all of that. Well, the stronghold would be even more fortified. Imagine like the little building inside of all of that. Maybe you where with guard towers around it and all this other stuff, right? The castle, the stronghold, that's what that is. The fortress. So we can live a life knowing that if we're yielded to God, that's our stronghold. That's what our safe place. That's that Psalms 23 again. That's the where we can go and lay in the green pastures, and the Lord will make us to get rest. But it says that exact same stronghold is destruction for an evil doer, for a wicked person, a person who rejects God. Verse 30, the righteous will never be removed, but the wicked will not dwell in the land. Never be removed. That's another sign of everlasting life, right? Won't be shaken, won't be uprooted, won't be moved. But the wicked will not dwell in the land, and they won't be. The wicked won't have a permanent place. You know, they're gonna end up where the wicked ends up. And then what's that? That was verse 30. Okay. Verse 31. We just got two more left. The mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but the perverse tongue will be cut off. Hmm. The mouth of the righteous bring forth wisdom, right? So, we started, if we I should have wrote a list of all the things. I might go back and do that. The things that the mouth of the righteous bring forth. It's the fountain of life. Uh Speaks life, right? We speak truth. Um, but now we're seeing that it brings forth wisdom. And then we also learned earlier that what was it? Knowledge. Let me see. Let me find it. Yep, the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. So we found that, right? On the lips, on the lips of the righteous is understanding, and wisdom is found, right? So we already saw where on the lips of him who has understanding, wisdom is found. And then this is saying that the mouth of the righteous bring forth wisdom, because there's understanding from verse 13. You're going to be able to bring forth wisdom, right? But the perverse tongue will be cut off. But what did it say? It said, the mouth of the righteous bring forth life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence, right? That's why it's getting cut off, because it brings forth violence, right? Yeah, it's gonna get cut off, not washed out with soap either, right? Destroyed, tossed away. When it makes me think of when Jesus gives the parable of the soul of the vine dresser, and he says that the branches that give bad fruit, they're cut off and they're discarded and they're thrown into the pile to burn, right? That's what happens with the wicked. But when we live in righteousness, we get to bring forth wisdom, understanding, and be a fountain of life, bringing life and speaking life over into others. Like, that's a beautiful thing. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 32, last verse, says, the lips of the righteous knows what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked what is perverse, right? Reason why the lips of the righteous knows what's acceptable is because it's coming from a place of wisdom, and it's coming from a place of understanding, right? So what's acceptable, because you're not just speaking like a fool and just allowing anything to come out of your mouth, right? The mouth of the wicked what is perverse. um when you're when in a wicked state of mind, wicked things come out of our mouths. Am I and mad, upset, like we talked about, hatred cause strife, but then hatred also make you have some very perverse thoughts, right? Have Make you have some very perverse interactions, and you start having hard feelings, as they say. When you start having these you're secretly wishing harm upon somebody. The mouth of the wicked says stuff out loud, though. We live in a world where we are fighting against we're fighting spiritual battles, right? So when we go out and we're interacting with people, and all of these perverse things are coming out of their mouth, I understand that sometimes we are dealing with a true bona fide wicked person. Sometimes we're literally dealing with someone who has some demonic force that is oppressing them, that has them acting out of character. Sometimes we're dealing with a person who is legitimately seeking to be on the right path, but is struggling and is still trying to find their way through this life, and on this journey to grow closer to God. But sometimes you're dealing with just a wicked person, right? And this is again, it's telling us, when you're dealing with a wicked person, expect to hear some perverse things. If you don't know if a person is a wicked person, Examine the things that come out of their mouth. The lips of the righteous will say what is acceptable. And that's not acceptable to the world, because sometimes what's acceptable to the world just so happens to be the perverse thing that's coming out of the mouth of the wicked, right? We will justify someone threatening bodily harm to somebody because the world will say that it's acceptable. But what this is saying is that when you're living righteous, right, and you're coming from a place of love, that is something that you try to avoid with at all costs, right? So I think this is talking about our physical lips in some ways, but I think it's also symbolic of our actions, our behaviors, whether or not we are bearing good fruit. The righteous bears good fruit, the wicked bears bad fruit, right? We can sum this whole chapter up in saying that when we live a life that is aimed at pleasing God, we are a blessing to others. When we don't, we're a blessing to no one, not even ourselves. So I think I'm gonna leave it on that. I'm gonna leave it at that for tonight. So these were a lot of sins. If you get a chance to go back, like I said, chapters 1 through 9 of Proverbs was structured differently, right? There was a bunch of letters that was written from Solomon uh, to his son. That's what he said. He started them off with my son. So once we hit 10, from 10 to 22, so from now until we hit day 22 of the Proverbs, we're going to be going through what is described as Proverbs of Solomon, right? And these are a bunch of short sayings. So although none of these sayings don't formulate a complete thought, they could, right? But what they do is they give us a bunch of bite-sized pieces that we can then start to digest, because there could be a time where it says that the Holy Spirit will bring scripture to our remembrance, right? It will bring the word to our remembrance. So there may be a time where you're faced with a situation where the Holy Spirit could bring forth one of these scriptures to help you to deal with a situation. So you're just about to act out of character in response to a situation, and the Holy Spirit reminds you that the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. And instead of you saying that thing that was hurtful and destructive to that person, you instead chose to either what was it? Find it. You chose to remain quiet, but I'm trying to find um, the exact verse. But I say that to say like you should definitely, when you get a chance, go back and read through um, the Proverbs, especially. I won't say especially, because I think they're all good. So I'm not going to use the word especially, but I think go back and read through the Proverbs. Remember that 1 through 9 are letters, so you could think of them as you found a message in the bottle from Solomon to his son, and that's what chapters 1 through 9 are. Chapter 10 starts with sayings of the Proverbs of Solomon. These are like, you thought of something and you jotted it down, and then before you know it, you got a collection of 3,000 little phrases that you can then use to help guide your life. I have all these little bands on that I wear, and sometimes it's like the WWJD, what would Jesus do? Like those, that's kind of what the Proverbs are. They're little sayings that we can use to help guide our life. So if nothing else, go through chapter 10 through 22 and find 2 or 3 of them that really stick out to you. Man, write them around your house. That's all I can say about it. Like, get you some sticky notes, go through the Proverbs, write down the ones that really, really stick out to you and just put them up all throughout your house so that when you wake up in the morning, it's on the back of your door. And when you go to brush your teeth, maybe it's on your mirror in your bathroom. You know, before your kids leave out of the house, maybe it's one of the last things that they see before they go get on that school bus is that they can do all things through Christ who strengthen them. You know, or they see a wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is a sorrow to his mother. If that's the last thing that your child see before they walk out of the door, maybe they'll rethink something that goes on in their life, because when faced with a situation, the Holy Spirit can help them to remember that scripture that they've seen 13 times just today walking through the house, right? So this is a good section to go through and do those type of things with. That's one of the things that I'm going to probably work on too, is putting up some more of them around my house. We have some. I got some stuff on some scriptures on the doors, but yes, sir. Surround yourself with it. That's right. And I got some that are faded, so I need to go and change them out. But the Proverbs is a great place to do that for. But you know, we need to normalize putting this into use, you know, in our families, in our households, with our kids, with our extended families. You know what I mean? Like, instead of practicing and allowing your mouth to be loose, next time you go see that in-law that you don't like, practice a little prudence, practice a little wisdom. I understand that, hey, not everything needs to be said, right? At the end of this day, at the end of this week, I'm gonna go back to my house where I'm head honcho. I don't need to argue with nobody about nothing, right? So but again, like, once we start to live out of the abundance of love, then we don't even have to be offended. So love covers a multitude of offenses, because once we live out of love, we no longer have to be offended by certain things. Not offended by a wicked person. A person who don't believe in God can't offend my opinion on God. You can say what you want to say. That's your salvation that you're throwing away, right? But you know, I used to be the person that would take offense to somebody say something negative. Like, I can't believe they said that about God. Now listen, I ain't gonna, you ain't finna come in my house and bad mouth my Lord. You know what I'm saying? But like the non-believer, don't bother me. Don't bother me what you say about my God. I know how good he is. Right? So yeah. Let's be the fountain of life, right? Let's allow life to flow out of our mouth. Let's speak life over our kids. Let's make that a habit. Let's do a actual effort at trying to make that our life. And again, you're not gonna get it right the first time around, but this is a practice thing. Like, the more that you do it, the more you practice it, the better you get at it. And before you know it, it becomes second nature. So, all right, y'all. Um, I have been on some form of call for about 4 hours today, so I think I am gonna call it on this one. I want to thank everybody who got back on for chapter 10. We only have 21 chapters left to go. So hopefully, you know, you guys are all going to stick with me for the next 21 days. If not, I completely understand. Get it in where you can get it in at. But even if you don't get on here, make sure that you are reading your Bible, okay? Everything that I am saying on here, fact check it. I have no problem with that. Okay, if I say something and you look in the Bible and it seems to say something different, fact check that for yourself. All right, because I'm a man, I make mistakes. That's the reason why I tell you guys, like, I am not without sin. I am not high and mighty or any of that stuff. I make mistakes. But my goal right now is to die daily, right? Die daily. That's my goal. I want to take up my cross and live for Christ. So I'm praying that, you know, everybody who comes across this video has the same goal, and I'm here to help. I'm here to assist in however God deems necessary. So, well, thank you. You know, I put a lot of thought into the videos and into the information. So, I'm glad to hear that. All right, I'm gonna pray us out, and I am gonna get off of here. So, oops, sorry about that, y'all. Uh, Lord, um, Lord, I thank you for this 10 days in a row, Lord, 10 days of lives, and I just feel like getting doing these videos energize me, Lord. So I thank you for this opportunity. Lord, I thank you for every individual that gets on this call. I thank you for the returning viewers, Lord, and I also thank you for those who may have only jumped on for a second, but I pray that something that they heard resonate, plants that seed that sprouts into a tree of knowledge and understanding, Lord. I pray that we all begin to seek after you more and more every single day, Lord. I pray that we become more and more aligned with your will and your way, Lord, that we may live a more righteous life. And Lord, I pray that you will help us all to identify wickedness when it's starting to brew up, not only in us, but also in others. And Lord, that you will help us to be a fountain of life, Lord, that speaks peace and love and understanding and knowledge and wisdom over every soul that we come across, Lord. We thank you for allowing us to be a part of your kingdom, and we just pray that you will continue to make your will known unto us. I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much. Can I read 23 again? Yeah, I can go back. Let me give me a second. Let me go back. It says, doing wrong is like a joke to a fool, but wisdom is a pleasure to a man of understanding. Is that the one you're talking about, Caleb? I just saw your comment. Sorry about that. I'm scrolling back through them and looking. So what question you had about that one?